Welcome one and welcome all to the greatest show of them all. It is the NFC East Mixtape volume, not 171, volume 172. Apologies for the typo in the title. My name is RJ Ochoa. His name is Brandon Gowton. I am from Blogging the Boys. He is from Bleeding Green Nation. You can watch this show on either one of those YouTube channels where we're all going to be sad all together. BLG, happy dumb Tuesday.
Well, not everyone being sad. I think New York Giants fans, for once, feel okay. Shout out to Ed Valentine. I guess we should have had him on. This is a rare chance for him to take a victory lap and gloat. But
Ed's not really a victory lap kind of guy, but I actually do think he would gloat a little bit. He's crawled through a lot of mud, and so I do think he would take his chance to feel some sunshine.
Rightfully so. No, deserved for sure in this moment. But right now, it looks like we are in a time where you could call it the NFC least, which is actually something we invented here on this show and is trademarked, so no one else can use it.
Yeah, we are the only people who ever have said that. We are the original thought creators. Everybody else who says it owes us a copyright fee. Daniel Dillon says, when was the last time when everyone in the NFC East lost except the Giants? I don't know. I could look it up if I wanted to, Daniel. It would take a bit, though. So I really am not going to. But it actually may not take long, as Brandon's going to find out, because the Giants haven't won a lot of games in recent years. It does help. I suppose it's a two birds, one stone situation, and that the Giants beat the Eagles. So they won, another division team lost. So they really only had to get two other, dominoes to fall, so to speak, to make this happen. I'm trying to vamp as best as I can, Brandon, for you to find this if you can. That's okay. I think we all believe and agree it's been a very long time. And I think what makes it even more wild is we talk a lot about the feelings and emotions and vibes associated with football. And so that the Giants and their fans got this win on Thursday. They got to walk tall all day Friday and then, enjoy college football, whatever they did on Saturday, and then watch the Cowboys lose on Sunday and get to point and laugh, and then get to point and laugh on Monday when Washington lost. Like, it has just been, euphoria after euphoria, nirvana after nirvana for New York Giants fans for almost a week now.
They deserved it too, and we're kind of going out of order here, but we'll get to them more in depth at the end, which is funny because of all the praise we're giving them. They're still in the bottom of this division and in a tough spot ultimately still. But I think across the how about like a general NFL take right now? Not exactly a hot one. Like, who's the best team in the league? It's not like a clear-cut answer. I think you can say the Colts, but how real is that? I'm willing to believe it's real until they show us otherwise. But
I think Tom Downey, a good friend of mine, his Cowboys Report YouTube channel is massive. They have over 100,000 subscribers, so shout out to Tom. He had a tweet. It's Tuesday, October 14th, and he had a tweet today that said there are no good NFL teams. I don't know that I would say that there's no good. I mean, it was kind of a joke, but I think to your point and his point, no one has really separated themselves. Honestly,
no juggernaut.
Yeah, like if it's very chalk, but if I had to take one against the field right now, it might be the Chiefs based on Sunday night.
Right, and lost to the Eagles.
Right. So it's weird. Let's see. Emma Noel GF says, "Love you, my baby boy RJ. Go Birds." So I don't know what that's about, but that seems like a behind the curtain story that I have to do some digging on.
I have no idea. I have nothing to do with that.
Baby Boy is a great song by Beyonce. Okay, so let's go in order. Brandon, for anyone who's somehow new, maybe they stumbled, here based off of their YouTube search, algorithm, whether that's Eagles fans and they can watch on Bleeding Green Nation, or Cowboys fans, they can watch on Blogging the Boys. Brief TLDR, what this show is, how we operate, what we do. Go.
Well, we talk about the NFC least here, as it is right now. And we talk about each team, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Washington Commanders, the Dallas Cowboys, and the New York Giants in division order, which is just the order I listed right there. So we start with the Philadelphia Eagles, who played on Thursday Night Football.
We do have to kind of talk about the Giants here. Like, I think this is sometimes curveballs get thrown in. It would be weird to not talk about the Giants. We could talk about the Eagles and the Giants here.
Yeah, we'll start with the Eagles' perspective. From the Eagles' perspective, they entered this game as 7.5-point road favorites. They've They were, I think, like 36-8 or something like that, or 20. A crazy record against the Giants since 2008. Like they've pretty much owned that team every year with some, occasional losses mixed in there, like the Joe Judge inexplicably. But in those games, even like the Eagles just didn't play well, and the Giants kind of like just played even less worse. Like it's not like they just like took it to the Eagles. It's just like, oh, the Eagles just were playing terrible. That was not the case in this game. Like the Giants took it to the Eagles from the jump. And that's a really rare thing in the Nick Sirianni era, is the Eagles just not looking ready to play. They did not look ready to play. And also just getting out bullied, like out physicaled and just totally handed to them. So that was pretty surprising to see. The vibes certainly do not feel good in Philadelphia. I will say, having seen every other team struggle, it kind of puts things in perspective that you're not the only team struggling, but that doesn't fix everything. It's not like, oh, well, the Eagles are okay because every other team sucks. Like that doesn't make you feel better about what issues the Eagles have going on. So it was weird because they did fight back in the game a little bit after a slow start. So credit to them, I guess, at some level for that, but then just totally got away from them. Defense really struggling right now. Eagles pass rush is a big issue. They just lost to Darius Smith unexpectedly, so it's even worse now. Not that he was like amazing, but he did lead all the edge rushers in sacks, 1.5. And offensively, just the offense sucks, and there's no good reason for it to suck because they have so much good talent there. And it's just kind of hard to figure out. Now, this was a bad Jalen Hurts game. I think this is his worst game of the season. He had one turnover. And then he had the interception, and then he also had a missed touchdown pass to Devontae Smith that if he hits that, maybe the game looks a little bit different. That's like kind of like a 28-point swing there because I think the Giants scored on both of those drives after that. So bad Jalen Hurts game, but bad offensive game as a whole. Offense is out of sorts. Everyone's mad at the Eagles offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo. I think it goes beyond him. I think he's part of the problem, but I think it goes beyond him. I think ultimately my biggest target for blame right now is Nick Sirianni, because what answers is he providing to these continuously persisting problems that the Eagles have? I'm not seeing him helping provide answers. So, he's a Super Bowl winning head coach. He's won so much, but right now, I don't think he's serving the team well.
So, a couple things. First of all, I don't know how this is pronounced phonetically, but it might be Gingrich, 17. Says 2020 week 6. I think to answer the question as to the last time the Giants were the lone winner within the NFC. So wow. I'm glad we got the answer. Thank you. If it is Gingrich, apologies if we butchered it. I have a lot of things to say, and we don't have enough time. Like we could do as you do with the Ringer. Shout out to Shiel. We could do a whole hour on the Eagles, and I certainly don't want to do that just personally, but certainly for the purposes of this. So I'm going to try to blitz through all these points and try to be as succinct as I can. This game started with the bad vibes of the shout out to one of your other colleagues in Jimmy Kemsky, the meeting, which has like taken on a life of its own in terms of like, it was a meeting, it wasn't a meeting, it was a casual thing in the parking lot, whatever. I just don't, I think that sometimes I think that Eagles fans can't handle success just because they're so accustomed to, Lucy pulling the ball away. Like that was Eagles fans' lives forever. And then the team got really good. And I think that on some level, they just don't know how to process it. And I think that's just human emotions in general. But I think the team is kind of like that. I think the team is kind of like, well, we can't just everything be good. We can't just everyone be happy and everything be hunky-dory. Like something has to be wrong. Somebody has to be bothered. We have to have there's no elephant in this room, and we need an elephant, guys. Let's generate an elephant. It's kind of insane to watch. The Saquon documentary blowing up in everyone's face was really funny. Just again, I'm trying to blitz through here. This was a really bad Jalen Hurts game, and I have no desire to trash Jalen Hurts, and I think Nick Sirianni is the same but different in that he is incredibly nuanced, and we can admit that. We can acknowledge that he's not the best pocket passer of all time, but that in certain moments he's been an amazing pocket passer. He's had 2 of his best games ever in literally Super Bowls. Granted, they didn't win one of those, but the like overall of his career from a quantitative standpoint is kind of gross from a passing standpoint. So he is an enigma in that sense. He's not a running back who plays quarterback. I'm not someone who believes that, but he's not Dak Prescott. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's somebody unique, and that is challenging for people. But in a game like this where nothing is working, it just opens the vault for all of the takes to come out. And so I really enjoyed that. I said this to you last week. I do think that the Eagles' chaos is compounded by everything happening in Philadelphia sports right now, that this game happened in parallel with the Philly season ending. Apologies for that, by the way. And the way that game went, the final moment of it, like, I do think just, it threw kerosene on the fire. I know that not every Eagles fan is a Phillies fan, but I do think there is obviously a large crossover there. I also think the Giants are kind of good and have a lot of what the Eagles don't have, and that they have positive energy and belief and just like love for each other.
Expectations.
Yeah. And so and then on the Nick Sirianni thing, I have by the way, I don't want to jump to the Cowboys, but Brian Schottenheimer is doing a lot of visors and pens. Highlighters and pens in his visor. So I'm in a tough spot there, but that will save that. I also think that Nick Sirianni is an enigma because he's not an offensive play caller. He doesn't call any plays. And so what are you doing? Well, you're managing the vibes. You're managing the culture. You're managing the environment. And I normally think that kind of thing is dumb, but there's enough success here to where we have to acknowledge that it is a real strength of his, except for when it's not working. So if you're not calling the plays, if there's not group harmony, if you're only existing as someone for Big Dom to, kind of walk around in the orbit of, what is it that you're accomplishing and giving here? You're a lesser coach than Doug Peterson as far as Eagles Super Bowl winning head coaches in that regard. Cool. You are the guy who says go for it. You're the guy who says call the tush push.
Yeah, and his game management hasn't even been like aces at all.
So I mean, that's a lot of things I recognize, but all of these things seem pretty avoidable to me, which is very strange. And again, speaks to the masochistic nature of the Eagles and that they just have to have something wrong with them at all moments in time.
I think an unfortunate reality. I think something that this isn't something. It's almost like we're not allowed to talk about this as analysts. Obviously, we can, but I'm saying like the general media at large is like, what if the Eagles' success last year was like, this is the price to pay for it. In fact, that they had such a grueling season in terms of, it's a longer season, go to the Super Bowl. And not only just that, because every team coming off the Super Bowl has a long season, but specifically the way they played with how they're just running the ball over and over. And I've kind of talked about here before about how like the offensive line, which I think is a big issue with this team as a whole, the offensive line, which we all expect. Normally the Eagles have, if not the best offensive line in the NFL, one of them. That's not even close to the case this year. And I think a big factor in that isn't just because like all the good players who are there who have, are established players, like except for Lane Johnson is on the older side. Like, I don't think they just got bad all of a sudden. I think they're extremely banged up. And at that point, like, what can you really do to fix that? Like, other than just, try to make it through this season. So I think that the toll of, playing the way they did last year with all those rushing attempts, as I said, didn't really take its effect on Saquon Barkley, because I think he still looks good. You saw that early in this game. His first two carries, it's like, oh, this looks like it's going to be a big Saquon game. And then it's not. I think it took its toll on the offensive line. And really, that's another like kind of big picture thing here. When we think about the Eagles playing at their best, and the big reason why they won multiple Super Bowls is because they were really strong in the trenches. They're not strong in the trenches right now. And that's just not like typical of what you expect from this team when it comes to the offense being able to salt away games by like, controlling the clock and running the clock out and having their way at the ends of games, or the defensive line just being able to generate pass rush and be really strong controlling the run. Like, they're not doing that right now. So they're not really true to what they have been for years in terms of what they believe in building in. It's not for a lack of resources. They put a lot of resources into the trenches, but it's just they're not getting good performances out of them. And ultimately, my takeaway, my like honest takeaway, without even thinking about it when watching that Giants game, and I had tweeted it out during the game, I was just like, maybe the Eagles aren't very good this year. And I think that's just kind of, I don't think they're terrible. They're not like, a team that's going to be picking in the top 5, top 10, but they might just kind of be like an average team.
I think that I understand why you're trying to connect the dot to last year. Like, maybe it's paying the price. I think that maybe it's just a different year. And maybe some years, if you're very fortunate, you win the Super Bowl. And maybe other years you're just good, or you're really good, or you're really bad, or whatever. I mean, I just think that on some level, there is this, because they've been this good for so long, there is this constant chase of trying to find the emotions of what it felt like at the times it was the most successful. And so when it's not going that way, it becomes a chase. It becomes, internally pressurized. And I think they're their own worst enemy. I think we say that a lot about like sports teams in general, but the Eagles truly are their own worst enemy right now. They're the ones getting in their own way. I do want to talk about one thing very briefly, because this subject has been beat to death by everyone in the world. When the tush push is banned in the spring, the Eagles have this game to blame and themselves to blame for this, because it was already a very volatile subject for like everyone who has an opinion on anything. And for them to run it 4 times in a row was, I don't want to say it was Bush League, but it's like daring everyone to ban it. It was flying in the face of what annoys people.
You can use it.
I'm not saying that, but I mean,
you are saying that.
No, I'm not. But I will say that sequence was the closest I've ever been to I don't like this opinion, but the opinion that, oh, this isn't stylistically football. This bothers me because it doesn't feel like football. That was the closest I've ever been to jumping on that bandwagon. And so my point isn't that, oh, there should be a limit, there should be a pitch count or whatever on how many times you can use it, but that was literally rugby. Like to do it 4 times in a row was literally rugby.
I don't agree with that, but what I will say about it is that I think it's humiliating that like that is the extent of their offensive ingenuity. Like that's it. Like it's like the offense is so, as Lane Johnson had called it out, like being predictable. And Nick Sirianni, not saying it about this year's offense, but saying about after the 2023 season, they got stale. A lot of that is within here. And I think it sucks that like the thing that they have that is like the ingenuity is this one play. Like, why can't it be more than that? Why does it like have to be this one play? So it's frustrating to me from that sense.
The New York Giants, holy crap. I mean, I had said before the season when they went to Jackson Dart, obviously different points that when you can have, it's rare, obviously, to have a rookie tandem at quarterback and running back. And I've obviously lived it with Dak and Zeke. Like that is a very infectious energy, and they have such infectious personalities. My friend Jimmy, not Kemsky, I've mentioned him several times. He's a Texans fan. He was texting me during this game, and he was like, dude, these guys are just so much fun to watch. Like they have very fun personalities. If you have no skin in the game, if you're not an NFC East fan, obviously you wouldn't be here. But like I can see being like, dude, the Giants rock. Like everything about them is a lot of fun, and they are saving everyone's jobs right now with the New York Giants.
I thought Jackson Dart might be good when we saw him look good in the preseason. Obviously, that's not like definitive. Players have looked good in the preseason, not looked good in the regular season. But we saw enough there, kind of like you saw from Dak from his rookie year and his preseason, that like, okay, there's something here. And, he hasn't been perfect. I do think he actually played even better than the box score indicated in this game. I do wonder about his longevity because when he runs incredibly recklessly. Maybe that's something he'll get better at as he matures. I do worry about him getting hurt. Obviously, he was in the concussion protocol at one point.
That whole
in this
thing
game.
Was wild.
That was wild. That is football for you, baby. Something weird happening always. But I do think like that's real because he like the one play he's like launching forward with his head into Jahad Campbell. I'm like, dude, he's not going to stay healthy if he runs like that. So in the meantime, it's exciting to watch if he does stay healthy. And obviously Cam Scattaboo is really fun to watch in terms of being, this physical, tough to stop presence. So it's a look, Giants fans have gone through a lot of down times. And again, there's still a lot of work to do. I don't think this is, they're going anywhere fast this season still. And this is a team that just lost to the Saints last week. So it's like, they're not like, oh my gosh, they've arrived. They're unstoppable. There's still very real flaws. But credit to them for taking it to the Eagles in this game. They wanted it more. Like that was the alarming thing about the Eagles for me, but I will give the Giants credit. They wanted that game more, and they go out and they were at home and they took it and they gave their fans, which it was like kind of an empty-ish stadium, by the way, too. At least Jimmy Kemsky, who you just mentioned, had tweeted out a picture like before the game, and understandably so. So a lot of Giants fans are probably like, oh, another bad year. Going to be a lot of Eagles fans there, probably going to get blown out. Ed Valentine thought the Giants were going to get blown out in that game when we did our preview stuff last week between Bleeding Green Nation and Big Blue View. So that certainly wasn't expected that the Giants are on the rise and going to beat that team. So it's an exciting win for them. Probably the most exciting and meaningful win they've had in I don't know how long, in a long time. So they deserve credit.
It was their first win in prime time. I knew this and I forgot it, but since like week 3 of 2022 or something. I mean,
And
it
their
had
first
been
division win since what, like 2022
that I don't know, but
or something?
they had lost something like 19 straight primetime games. And so like this like part of my problem with the Monday Night Football doubleheader thing is that part of the fun is that we all get to watch a game together and we all get to like dunk on the team that's bad, right? Like that's part of the communal aspect of island football, like Thursday night football, Sunday night football, whatever. And so to that point, that was a lot of crap that Giants fans had to take and had to eat for years, right? It's just every time they were in prime time, it's just looking bad, getting destroyed, very often against division rivals. That's a lot of, just kind of waste to have to tolerate for a long time. I a few things on Cam Scatterboo because I'm a Sun Devil as well, and this is just this is one of those where I'm very, very happy and very very happy to have believed. I will, be straight up though and say that I believed out of bias. Like it wasn't like I was like, objective and impartial and was like, I believe this is going to work. But I mean, he is infectious. He is if there's a culture changing running back, it's Cam Scatterboo. He had a quote afterwards where he said, look, I know this organization's I'm paraphrasing here, but been through a lot of losing. He said, we're not those teams anymore. And I think it takes someone like that to drag people through to the other side. Just on the concussion thing, this was a very common take when he was at Arizona State. He shakes his head after plays. And a lot of people thought that it was to do with something like he doesn't feel well. He's adjusting himself. From a noggin standpoint, he likes to fix his helmet. He's done multiple interviews about this. So in case anybody sees that, it's an often, contended thing, but he is amazing. I don't think every game will be like that, but I mean, they believe. I mean, they may not be a playoff team or anything like that, but they finally have a spirit of belief, which is I don't think they believed in the 22 season with Daniel Jones and Saquon. I think everybody was just kind of thinking they're lucky stars. I think it is different for Giants fans in that they feel like, holy crap, there is a nucleus here that can carry us to the future.
Getting back to Dart a little bit too. I mean, he wasn't working with his best receivers out there. You have Malik Neighbors on IR. Darius Slayton didn't play in this game. It was Wan'Dale Robinson, Little Jordan Humphrey, who they called up from the practice squad, Jalen Hyatt, who didn't even play well, but he was one of their top 3 receivers as well. So I think that makes it even more impressive that they didn't even have, their full, already kind of at full health, questionable, receiving core, but it was even worse than that and dominated. And by the way, shout out to my dad in the chat here, which you can highlight, I'm sure.
Yeah. I did a little while ago. Maybe you're on a different tab, but whatever.
Oh, I'm audibly calling him out as well.
Shout out to Mr. and Mrs. Gowton
and my mom.
I just said that, so
I had to say it on my end. Make sure.
I'm just saying I said it first.
Neglecting.
Okay. Eagles Girl 52 says, was this win enough for Dable to keep his job?
No, I mean he's not going to get fired obviously this week, but like in the big picture, no.
I've mentioned this a few times. I'm a grad student at the University of Florida, and Billy Napier is super awful. And I just hate that he runs the football team. And last weekend, not this most recent one, but they beat Texas. And it was an awesome, energy vibes shifting win. Coming out of that, I was very, very happy, but my mindset was like, this is awesome. Fire Billy Napier. Like it was in no way like, what, like you need to keep him now. And so I if I was a Giants fan, I'd be feeling like this is great. Jackson Dart's awesome. Cam Scatterboo's awesome. There are a lot of pieces here. Brian Burns is starting to come along. Get rid of Joe Shane and Brian Dable. Like get someone in here who can help them because these are the dudes who sunk the team for so long. And these guys, these players are so talented that they're actually powering through that sinking. And we need someone who can fully capitalize on them. So you consider it like I always use your moral loss thing. You have to take a moral loss type lesson from what you're seeing this season. Like have the positivity and the vibes and the energy from the young players and the talent on the roster, but do not have a sunk cost fallacy when it comes to your head coach and your gentleman. You've seen enough at this point, I think, to move on from both Brian Dable and Joe Shane.
On this note, I was checking out Big Blue View, and there's literally on the feed section of their site, there is a feed post titled "Joe Shane is a clown." That's from 2 days ago. So yeah, I don't think they're like, oh yeah, Dable and Shane are the answers. They absolutely want those guys to go for sure.
The Washington Commanders lost on Monday Night Football, the aforementioned doubleheader. It's dumb. This is, maybe I'm an old man for this. I do like one game. I'm going to say this one more time. It's silly. It's ridiculous. If you want to do like they're, I guess, doing next week where you stagger the games and have one back to back, I also think that's a little bit silly, but that is
that's a double header at that point.
Right. But like that's at the very least.
This isn't a double header.
This is dumb. And people say things like, oh, well, it gives you options. I don't want options. And people say like, oh, well, I've gotten so many people tell me like, oh, well, I have multi-view. That's great. I have multi-view too. I bought my TV for the size that it is, not to have, half of it for the games that I want to watch. So multi-view is a cool thing. I agree with you, but I want to watch one game on the size of the TV that I bought on Monday Night Football. So I'm looking forward
to do it like once a year. Like, I don't know, early on.
I heard this on Pardon My Take. They were talking about the London games, and their point was they used to be kind of cool when they would happen like twice a year because it felt really special. It felt like, oh, this is kind of cool. It's a little bit different. It's football at 8:30 in the morning. And now it's every single week. And now it's just oversaturation. But that's a different point. The Commanders lost. Jaden Daniels choked a little bit, but was also pretty good. Caleb Williams, better in clutch moments. Jake Moody. I was thinking about stats the whole time and wondering what he was thinking. But stats probably levitating because the Mariners being up 2-0 in the ALCS anyway. So bit of a troubling loss for the Commanders, and they fall to 500. Regression to the mean starting to happen. One of these one possession games.
DeAndre Swift, former
holy
Eagle,
crap,
in Philly zone with a really big game against the Commanders here. Commanders just blew this, right? I mean, they had a chance to kind of probably ice the game here at the end before they totally just botched it, gave the Bears life there. I by no means was expecting Jake Moody to make that field goal.
And it looked
I was like,
awful.
he's going to miss this.
Like I don't know what it was, like the angle or just the way the ball spun, but it looked I literally thought he shanked it.
Also, the Bears, I thought were playing for the field goal a little too much. Yeah. Not, obviously you want to manage the risk at some level, but you can't just assume your kicker is gonna absolutely nail even a close field goal here. You could have tried to be a little bit more aggressive there. So I just felt like it, and also I just felt like, man, can't you see they lose on the Hail Mary and then they have the game in hand here and they totally just blow it, and the Commanders somehow just have this magic going for them. Didn't happen, and really glad that's the case, because had the Commanders won, they would have been first place in the NFC East, since they still have a perfect division record there, which we'll see if that changes, and we'll talk about that later. But they're a solid team so far. They're not bad. Jaden Daniels is still really good. I expected that to be the case. Rest of the roster, some questions there. That's all I got. They're fine. They're a solid team. I don't think they're an amazing team. That's it.
I think that they have definitely turned a corner as a franchise. This is not the 2022 Giants, right? Or last year wasn't the 2022 Giants, right? Where it was a clear flash in the pan and then there was no sustaining what that success was. I don't know that the Commanders are going to reach the NFC Championship game. So in that sense, maybe some would view the season as a failure, finishing shy of where they were last year. But my point is they are very clearly here to stay, and be competitive, be contending year in and year out. And I think beyond, all due respect to Dan Quinn, the reason for that is Jaden Daniels. Mm-hmm. He is so good. He did he have some poor moments in this game? Absolutely. Was he the reason they lost? I think if you cherry picked, you could maybe make that argument, but I wouldn't. He's fantastic. He's phenomenal. It's just they just blew it as a team. These are those games that you don't have those seasons every year where you just are you hand it. I think it all gets lumped under the what was it, 9-0 in one possession games umbrella, but it's more than that. It's just not making critical mistakes. It's converting those 3rd and 7s, whatever, all those, just kind of flipping heads every single time 100 times in a row. That just doesn't happen. And so it is regression of the mean in that sense, but I do fully believe they'll be a playoff team. I don't doubt that at all.
On the plus side, they do have the best point differential in the NFC East. They're the only team with a plus point differential at plus 32. Eagles are second at -1 and the Cowboys -6. They're 1-0 in the division, like I said, but they are 1-3 in the conference, and that could be a little bit costly with some of these tiebreakers.
if you believe that the Lions are going to win the NFC North, and I don't know why you wouldn't. This is like a wild card tiebreaker, right? Like if the Bears are a wild card
100%.
team, like these are those moments that you look back on as really, really
Falcons
valuable.
maybe too. You could say the same thing,
dude. I mean the
Packers as well.
Who would have thought the like highest level of competition within a division in the NFC might be the Bucks and Falcons for the NFC South?
I like the Bucks a lot. I think they're probably the top team in the NFC.
I also saw this maybe this was on Twitter somewhere, but I saw this on TikTok. Someone said that Baker Mayfield, tell me if you've heard this before, is the Tom Brady of Johnny Manziel's. It was such an awesome way.
It sounds like a Bill Simmons thing.
It does, but
imagine hearing that in his voice.
It was really perfect though. He is, because name someone who doesn't like Baker. Like he has all the like moxie of Johnny football, but he's like the goat of it, and that's what makes him time. Like he is so much fun.
He's just playing with so much confidence, and it feels like again when the Eagles played him, they did a really good job of shutting the Bucs offense down the structure, but Baker just made plays that they couldn't account for. And I think he's doing a better job at balancing that now in his career, whereas he might have previously relied on playmaking too much, but now he can do both.
This is not an NFC South mixtape, just so everyone is fully aware.
Well, wait, one more thing on Baker, sorry. And he's doing it without like his star receivers too. So this isn't the product of the environment. And I hate when people are like, oh, they didn't have someone. How is he supposed to do anything? Well, sometimes good players do really good things with working with nobodies, and that's what Baker is doing.
He also, again, the moxie is did you see the clip of him at Seattle talking to the fan before the game?
Yeah,
like that stuff is awesome. Like I mean, like that's the type of stuff that like Bucs fans will ride for him for forever. You know what I mean? Because
it's very authentic. Yeah, it's him. Not everyone should or can do that because it's not them, but that is very much him.
Yeah, I feel that way. Like I love Dak Prescott. He's not the best trash talker. You know, it kind of comes out awkward and clunky. Also, Jalen Hurts, not the best talker in general. What was his quote after this game that was like, I saw this everywhere. It was like the athlete doesn't concern himself, or I forget exactly. Do you know what I'm talking about here?
No.
Well, now I have to find it.
What were you going to say about the NFC South?
This is not an NFC South mixtape. That's what I said.
But you were going to get onto a point about them other than just the Baker stuff?
No, I was like wrapping your point.
Okay. Well, yeah. So that is going to be costly. Getting back to the Commanders being 1-3 with losses to the Packers, Falcons, and Bears. It could be costly if they're in the wild card mix.
This is what it is. A wise
tiebreakers.
So he was, I guess, asked Jalen was how he approaches losses versus wins, and he said a wise competitor approaches them all the same.
All right. So that gives us the Cowboys, right? At this point, the Dallas Cowboys, who I thought were going to beat the Panthers. Like I didn't even think it was going to be that much of a question, but lo and behold, the Dallas defense is still terrible and showed up once again. And now, speaking of being bad in the conference, Cowboys are now 1-3-1 in conference games. Also very damaging. They won one game on the road this season. That was against the Jets.
Right. Their 2 wins are against the New York teams.
Yeah.
Start spreading the news.
Boom. So what do you got for me with these Cowboys?
It certainly hurts even more after Washington lost, because this was your chance, right? Like you and we said this going into the week. Not that anyone.
You mean after the Eagles lost?
Well, yeah, but like since that was Thursday, I actually a little bit before we did this, I shared a clip on my socials that was saying like the mentality. I don't like to speak for people, but I think that most people were walking around on Friday after the hate watch saying like, okay, the Eagles just lost. Who knows? Maybe the Commanders will lose on Monday Night Football against the Bears. All you got to do is go to Carolina and beat the crummy Panthers. And that's it. And then you set up, and I even told you this last week, then you set up a massive Week 7 game at home against Washington. And all of a sudden, like all the energy, all the momentum is on your side. I mean, had the Cowboys won, I think we would be sitting here saying like, dude, they might, like if the Eagles drama continues, you know what I mean? Like, because the Giants aren't like Dak Prescott owns the Giants, you know what I mean? And until he doesn't, he does. And so, we would have been like, who cares if the Giants won? The Cowboys own them, whatever. And so to drop the game against the Panthers those are the ones you're going to look back on in late December. You're going to say, man, if we had just won 1 or 2 more, that was it. And it's not even that it was a 1 possession game. It's that, and I mean, zero disrespect to the Panthers. It's that you should have beat them. You were a better team than them. You have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. And he had a game out of his mind. The star wide receiver you traded for had a game out of his mind. it shouldn't have even been a game, but your defense is so bad. And it's partly bad because you traded away one of the best defensive players in the NFL. That's not an issue in this moment in time, but it's bad because you let it get this way. It's bad because you let everything rot. You just, sit and chill and don't do your jobs from a front office perspective. And because of that overall disposition, it leads to games like this where you run into teams who are hungrier than you, who care more than you, who have coaches who, are empowered by their ownership. And I'm saying this about the team who's owned by David Tepper. I mean, it's a recipe and a formula for disaster. And it's going to be one that I think the Cowboys wish they had when we're kind of around Christmas time.
Yeah, I saw your Instagram clip about how the Cowboys saying that, well, if we had Micah Parsons, this wouldn't fix everything. And it's like, well, that's kind of missing the point here. It's
that is true. I'm sorry. I don't mean to.
It doesn't fix everything, but help a whole lot.
No, and so my point is if I sat down with the Cowboys front office and they were to be, and I were to say you shouldn't have traded Micah Parsons, and they were to say, well, Micah wouldn't fix all this, I would agree with them. I'd say, okay, that's cool. We can agree here, but there's a bigger systemic issue here. And the problem was that even if you hadn't traded Micah, we would probably be sitting here saying dude, Micah can't do this all on his own. And you act like the star players who you pay. And I agree with your point about how it shouldn't be about someone's out, whatever. That's not something that, to your point, should fall on Baker. That's something to the Bucks point should fall on the Bucks front office, on their roster management, their roster construction. You should have a Tez Johnson who can step up and have a moment because you continue to supply and fulfill and reload your roster. The Cowboys don't. I mean, is it a shock to anyone that right now these cast-offs can't do anything? No, because they're cast-offs, and the Cowboys are sitting here expecting them to be everything because they don't want to do any more work.
Let's go through the Cowboys schedule here, if you'll indulge me, because they have 2 wins right now. They're 2-3-1.
2-3-1. They are the 15th team in franchise history to have 2 or fewer wins through the first 6 games of the season. A little bit wonky because of the tie, but none of the previous 14 have made the playoffs. One of them did have a tie.
So Washington this week, and we'll get to this. You can get more into the game in our predictions, but just a quick win-loss prediction.
I think they split the next 2 just to get a little.
Okay, so at that point they're 3-4-1.
Yeah,
they have 3 wins. What do they do against? They have a bye week at that point. They get to reset.
They have the bye after the Cardinals game.
After Cardinals game. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I skipped that. So they win against Cardinals or no?
Yeah, I think so. So they're 4-4-1, perfectly 500 at the bye.
And then bye week, they get to play against the Raiders in Vegas.
Back Monday. Yeah, they're on Monday Night Football, 2 straight games. The bye is in there. I think they win. And so they'll be 5-4-1. It'll be holy crap, watch out, here they come.
Then you're going against the Eagles at home.
I think those next...
You get Eagles, Chiefs, Lions.
Well, I would go further than that. You get Eagles, Chiefs, Lions, Vikings, Chargers, Commanders.
Okay.
That's a crazy 6-game run.
What do you think they split?
Well, and I would also, just for context, that Commanders game's on a Thursday, which you love. Mm-hmm. I know. That's Christmas. And so that makes it harder. It's a road game. Of those 6 games, they probably are fortunate to win half of them.
So let's say they're 3-3. How many wins do they have at this point?
I think we had them at 5-4-1. So it'd be 8-7-1.
And then Giants game to end the season. You said they win.
Yeah.
Okay. So just half a game over the over-under for this season. Interesting
how
that works out.
I mean, I know that the Bills lost, and partly because their defense got worked. And so Josh Allen and Dak Prescott are very comparable today. But that's the issue here is that, I don't know how you would rank Dak right now. If you ranked all current quarterbacks in the NFL, but you would agree that Dak is in the top 3, top 2. I mean, if you want to split hairs and say, I don't want to go against Baker or whatever, fine.
Yeah,
if you want to give, if you want to give some, legacy benefit of the doubt to Mahomes, whatever. The point is Dak is playing at a phenomenal level. And this was a point of contention. I don't know how well you watched the Cowboys game, but their final offensive possession, what wound up being their final offensive possession, it was 3 and out, and all 3 passes were behind the line of scrimmage. There was some pressure in Dak's face, but they looked to be designed plays that developed behind the line of scrimmage. That's really bad. That can't happen. And that was when the game was tied. I'm fully with everyone. I put some blame on Dak Prescott after the season opener when they went 3 straight possessions, and people freaked out about that. And granted, this has aged well, but it is I want to be very clear. It is incredibly unfair. It is massively unfair. It is the literal definition of unfair to say to Dak Prescott and to Brian Schottenheimer, because he's been a very good offensive play caller so far. It's unfair to say you two have to be perfect, but that's it. I mean, so if they're not, it's not going to work. It's unfair. Like, I don't feel good about it. I wish it were not the case, but if they're not, the team is not going to win games. And I would imagine that they know that. I would imagine that they have reconciled that. I would imagine that they would not shy away from the job, that they would not shy away from the challenge to have to be perfect. But Sunday against Carolina was an example of that, because they were not perfect for their final offensive possession, arguably their final 2 offensive possessions. And because they were not perfect, the team lost.
I do think it's interesting to see George Pickens continues to go off. But it feels funny to me just because what are the Cowboys going to do with him? Is he even going to be back? Like, it's nice for now, for sure. But if you're talking about wasting, a good Dak season, you're kind of also wasting a good George Pickens season in a year where you have to, you're going to have to figure out moving forward what you're going to do with him. And there's no reason for him to sign a deal now, because he's feeling like, oh, my price tag is only going to go up and up and up here. Like, there's no reason for him to rush to an extension. And I don't see that given his personality. I don't see him doing that. So it's kind of nice to enjoy right now, but I don't know what the long-term benefit of that is.
I wrote, it isn't out at the time we're chatting, but it will be later on Tuesday, about how this is going to cost the Cowboys financially in the offseason. I mean, every bit of success he has, and that's why, and I wrote it there, and I will reiterate it here, I was against the trade. I told you I was against the trade.
We talked about it at the time. We did a podcast after that.
Even though I was against the trade, I said, okay, cool. I wouldn't have done this, but you've done it. So now my very next thought is extend him. Do not waste do not waste any time. No one could have predicted this. That's to be expected. But if they had extended him, we'd be sitting here being like, damn, respect, well done. Like,
would have been a huge bargain.
Yeah, I mean, but and because would it be cool if George Pickens said, I don't need as much as CD, and I'm just kind of speaking loosely and generally here? Yeah, but why would he? Like, what? Why would he at this point? Like, he has a career high in touchdowns already, which you can certainly argue is an indictment against the Steelers and their offense. But he is one of only 2 Cowboys to have over 500 receiving yards and exactly, so I guess 6 or more, but 6 receiving touchdowns in his first 6 games with the team. The other one was Amari Cooper, who they also traded for at a moment in time where he was eligible for an extension. And they were very, very, very fortunate that Amari did not, weaponize that against them. But I mean, he could have. He had every reason to, especially after the initial season that he had for the team. So, I mean, it's just proof of why you get these things done early. And if you don't believe this team is going to accomplish anything, then this is why I get so frustrated when people say things like, oh, the Cowboys are clearly doing this. The Cowboys clearly traded Micah because this. They're clearly thinking about the long term. No, there's no clearly with anything. In the span of just a few months, they traded for a wide receiver and a contract year who's balling out of his mind right now, and then traded away arguably the best defensive player in the NFL. These two things move in opposite directions in terms of roster management and construction. So you can't sit here and say they're clearly doing anything. They have their hands in opposing, not just separate, but opposing cookie jars. And so it is very frustrating to watch in that particular sense. I would feel better about it if they just said, you know what, we waited too long. Because if they got the Pickens deal done now, hypothetically, it would still be a bargain relative to what they'll have to pay in March or April or July or August of 2026. But they probably won't. They'll probably sit, they'll probably chill, and they'll probably let the story dominate the NFL offseason cycle all of 2026, because that's how they like to operate.
What are opposing cookie jars, or opposing cookies for that matter? Something to think about.
Opposing cookies would be
I like to think about this.
Like if the cookie dough were chocolatey and one weren't, you know what I'm saying? Or one was like macadamia nut and one was like really sweet. Those would be opposing cookies.
Different. It's opposing.
Yeah, I think so.
So let's say the Cowboys lose their next 2. Feasible, right? They're probably going to be underdogs in their next 2 games.
They are underdogs at least this week. I don't know about next week.
And then they're going to be in Denver against the Broncos, who will be coming off a bye. I think they're going to be underdogs in that game as well. It's in Denver.
And they have a weird, kind of like you always talk about the Eagles' relationship with the Bucs. They have a weird, not good relationship with the Broncos.
I don't think the Broncos are amazing, to be clear, because the Eagles could have beaten them. The Jets almost did beat them. But Sean Payton's a good coach. So, I think they're going to put up a fight at least. So let's say the Cowboys fall to 2-5-1. Those are the final 2 games before the trade deadline. No, right? I think those are because then their next game would be November 3rd at that point. I think the trade deadline's before then, if I'm not mistaken. Because usually it's like Halloweenish, like right around the end of October. Or did they knock that back this year? Am I misremembering
The deadline is November the 4th.
Okay, so it's 1 day after that game that let's say they lose 3 straight for the sake of this argument. They lose to the
that would mean losing to the Cardinals. Let's give them the Cardinals win. But Cardinals. I actually, because I think you're framing the question or leading to would they make a desperate trade? I think
no. I was going to say they should trade George Pickens at that point.
I think you can certainly make that argument, but I think what they would do is say they lost the next 2 to your point, and then they beat the Cardinals, right? Because the Cardinals look pretty bad.
That's
who knows about Kyler, whatever. So that would put them at 3-5-1. I think at that point they would make a desperate trade for relevance. They were 3-5 when they traded for Amari Cooper, and they had just lost to Washington the day before. I don't recall their record last year when they traded for Jonathan Mingo, but they obviously weren't very good. And we don't dunk on that trade enough. It's just like
a total WTF trade at the time, and has only aged that way as well.
I mean, that day I remember tweeting this is so embarrassing. It really.
I remember the insiders too carrying water, being like, "Well, this isn't just for the season. This is for the future too." It's like, okay, great.
So yeah, I mean that Cardinals win could be costly, not only relative to draft position, obviously, but that it could provide some sort of false hope, some sort of mirage.
Depends too what the other teams do ahead of them. If they're 3-5-1, but the Eagles and Commanders are taking on water here, it's a different story. But the Eagles have a stretch here where I don't feel confident they can just instantly automatically rebound. But
let's pick the games.
Let's do it now.
Let's do week 7. So how do we do this portion? We do the first portion in
division order. This is in chronological order of the games taking place.
So Sunday at noon, the Philadelphia Eagles will be in Minnesota, the house of their first Super Bowl win. I don't know if Carson Wentz is going to be playing. I don't know if if you've seen anything yet. Obviously, it's still early in the week.
It seems more likely than not. It seems like he will be, but we don't know that for sure.
I hope quick sidebar. You know how we always make fun of the Rams for the Cam Akers thing, and how one day, speaking of the insiders, they were like, "Oh, he's never going to play for the Rams." It's just the relationship is completely and totally broken, and they never offered any kind of description as to what was going on there. I thought about this last week. Speaking of Arizona State, Sam Levitt just mysteriously had this injury that kept him out of Saturday's game against Utah, and out of nowhere, Kenny Dillingham, the Sun Devils coach, was like, it would be a miracle if he plays. They still we're several days removed from the game, and I have no idea. He was wearing a walking boot, but it was just what is the injury? How did this happen? Where did it come from? And I would say in that same box is what's going on with JJ McCarthy? How come this isn't a massive story? How come this doesn't get more attention? And I don't think in that respect that it's strange that Kevin O'Connell comes from the Sean McVay tree. You and I feel like the only people who say this, but Sean McVay has the ear of every national insider. They all love and adore him, and I get it. But because of that, they do not poke. If this were Jalen Hurts, if this were Dak Prescott, and he had just mysteriously stopped playing after the season opener, it would be talked about every single day. I mean, but we're just it's cool. They're playing Carson Wentz, maybe. We just took our foot off the gas of pressure there. I don't know why.
Well, it's kind of funny too, because it's should they even play? Is JJ McCarthy their best, option to?
Why is that the fact that is also a fair question after all the offseason hype and that he missed all of last year? How is my point is this is a very mysterious subject and no one presses on it whatsoever.
Well, shout out to our friend Tim, the whiskey influencer, also here in the chat today. Our occasional podcast guest host that more so us, I guess, going on his podcast. The Good Guy Drinks Whiskey, so check that out if you are a whiskey drinker or not. But we should get to the games here. Eagles are 2.5-point favorites on the road, despite losing their last 2 games. I mean, I don't really
saw the Vikings was in London.
Yes, well, both of them were in London. The Ireland and then London for the Vikings. So the last 2 games.
They haven't
shout
played,
out to Doylestown.
They haven't played in the United States in a month.
I just have such a tough time with this because I don't think the Vikings are all that great. They haven't been super impressive. Wentz had a better game last week, but Carson Wentz has looked like the Carson Wentz experience so far to me for the Vikings in terms of there are some high moments for sure. There are also really low moments where he's taking a ton of sacks and getting strip sacked, because he always does that. He fumbles all the time and turning the ball over. So there's probably going to be some dumb stuff like that from him in this game. At the same time, the Eagles defense is really struggling right now. Have they figured things out during the mini bye? I'm like not convinced, but I will say, for as much as I've been criticizing Nick Sirianni, I think I have to give him some benefit of the doubt, because he's done it in the past where things have been bad and he's turned it around. Not always. 2023 season obviously sticks out as an example, but you look at 2021, first year, look at last year. So I guess I'll take the Eagles, but like I have no confidence in it.
So you're laying the points.
I'm going to take the Eagles too, and they'll win by a field goal.
Has Carson Wentz, how many, maybe you don't know off the top of your head, how many times has he played the Eagles?
Definitely
twice with Washington.
No, I think only one time. I don't think he played them in the second game of that season, because I think at that point it was Heineke.
And I don't. Oh, and he bought the Jordans, right? Of course, after the Monday Night win.
Correct.
And
so only one game.
Well, and he was on the Chiefs when they lost the Super Bowl to the Eagles.
Correct.
So he has yet to win a game as an opponent of the Eagles. It would be somewhat ironic. And somewhat beautifully ironic if he finally did.
Well, he won a game with the Commanders with the Heineke game.
Oh, you're right. Okay, well,
but he was on IR, I think.
It would. So he may not have actually been in the building to that point.
I think he was there. I do think he was there.
But my point is, if he finally got a win as a starter, if he played against the Eagles, and it happened in the stadium that he did not get to play the Super Bowl
there you
because
go.
he was hurt, like that story. I mean, it's kind of beautiful. You know what I mean? It would be kind of awesome.
It's also a little bit of a stretch and really pales in comparison. And also sad that he wouldn't be happy about the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, which he is reportedly not that happy about.
Adam's Exploit said, I don't know if Wentz is going to play, but if they lose to him, that's depressing. That's honestly what's driving my pick the most. I'm going to pick the Vikings, especially because I'm getting points. Because this Eagles season is in that place where like it kind of feels like, okay, like they just lost to the Giants. How low could they possibly sink? Well, here's Carson Wentz.
Not impossible.
This would be the like fully send into chaos whirlwind. So I'm gonna take the Vikings.
Justin Jefferson is gonna be, a big challenge for the secondary. We'll see. Quinyon Mitchell had to leave the game early. I'm guessing he might be able to play. I don't know for sure. He had a hamstring injury against the Giants, and then the cornerback 2 spot is just a massive weakness. Like it was going into the season. We knew about that. We talked about that week 1. That was one of my biggest concerns. So could absolutely be a world where Wentz is just lighting the Eagles secondary up, going to Justin Jefferson over and over.
So they're the only NFC East team that plays at noon on Sunday.
Wow.
The other 3 play in the afternoon window. So the New York Giants are on the road against the Denver Broncos. Broncos doing the back-to-back NFC East thing.
Broncos don't see the Giants in that slot too often, do you?
Not these days. But this was pre-scheduled. This wasn't, and I think it's mostly that the game is in Denver.
It's just weird to see him
there. But as it is in Denver, the Broncos are 7-point home favorites.
Yeah. I don't think the Giants are are just amazing now just because they beat the Eagles. I think that could be a win where you're smelling yourselves a little bit too much and it's a young team and you get ahead of your skis. And for as much as, I gave the Giants credit, I still think there are flaws. And I like Sean Payton when it comes to the coaching staff there and Vance Joseph a lot better than I do that Giants coaching staff. So I think the Broncos, they don't always play it pretty. So the Giants could cover in this game. But I'm just going to say the Broncos end up beating them because the Broncos, for all their flaws, I think are a well-coached team. And I think they will beat the Giants.
I always find this juxtaposition interesting, and I'm verifying. The Broncos are tied for the second largest line of the week. The Chiefs are 11.5-point favorites over the Raiders. That's it. But they're tied with the Seahawks, I think. No, where did I just see? Somebody else is a 7-point favorite. And nobody else is, but they're tied for the second lowest, I think, or the lowest over-under. So they're 7-point favorites, and the over-under is 40.5. It's just like, it's really hard for both things to hit. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a really unique thing. I felt that way about like the over-under was very high in week 1 when Dallas went to Philadelphia, which is why I was like, there's no way that Dallas isn't going to cover whatever it was, like 8 points at the time. I'm gonna take the points. I'm gonna take the points, but I do think
win?
I think the Broncos win.
Yeah, I agree.
Drops
the Giants down to 2-5.
Yeah, and if it's low scoring both ways, like if it's like 17-13 or whatever, like I still will take the points. I don't see the Broncos like blowing them out. I do think the Giants are going to be able to kind of, I don't want to say go shot for shot, but keep it interesting the entire game.
Yeah, I think that the Giants' strengths, the Broncos' strengths kind of go up against the Giants' weaknesses there. Like I think that Broncos pass rush is really going to cause some issues for the Giants.
By the way, Eagles girl celebrated that I picked the Vikings. I don't know the last time I picked an Eagles game correctly, even against the spread. It might have been week 1.
I thought we talked about this recently. I thought you did take them against. Was it the Rams or the Bucks?
No, I took Bucks. I think I took Bucks because I took the Rams, and I should have won. We all should have won on that, but
that's not how it works.
I know, but I felt good about being wrong, as weird as that is. And then I took the Bucks because I thought like, okay, I was very close, and then I've taken the Eagles the last 2 weeks against.
I think you took them to beat the Broncos. I guess, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, I took the Eagles against the Broncos and the Giants. So I don't think even if we're just factoring in.
I thought you picked the Eagles to beat the Cowboys, or no?
I did, but I'm talking against the spread. I took the Cowboys. So the last time I picked a spread in an Eagles game correctly, it was week 1 when I took the points for the Cowboys. So
we will see.
Okay, speaking of the Cowboys, this opened at 2.5, but they are 1.5 point home dogs to the Commanders. This is the first.
That's a bad sign.
This is the first Cowboys afternoon game of the season at home, and I bring that up for the non-Cowboy, maybe even the Cowboys audience. This is the first afternoon sun glare at AT&T Stadium.
Can't wait. Give me the Commanders here. You're kind of wearing Commanders colors, by the way.
I always feel conflicted about Arizona State. It's a tough scene for me. Yeah.
This specific hat too, though, it just really, it only just hit me as I was talking about that, because it kind of reminds me of that old logo they have too. As I wasn't looking at it closely, the one with the different years and stuff that looks stupid. Anyway, Commanders are 1.5 point favorites on the road. I think that's a bad sign for the Cowboys. The fact that
it was 2.5, but I think everyone jumped on it because the Cowboys were so bad, whatever. That's why it's moved a little bit. But
I'm not worried about the Commanders being terrible just because they lost on Monday night. Again, I think they're average, and I think that the Commanders offense is going to be able to cook this Cowboys defense because basically everyone has, and you talked about how good Jaden Daniels is earlier. I think that's going to show against the Cowboys defense. I think the Cowboys offense will come to play, but ultimately I think the Commanders win this game. They do. They'll be 2-0 in the division, and then, obviously we'll see what happens with the Eagles there. In their game, but I think the Commanders win. What about you?
I like the line. I'm tempted. I'm trying to remember here. We have not seen Dak Prescott take on Dan Quinn's Commanders because the first game last year was the crazy Kevontae Turpin return that was at Washington, and the second game was the regular season finale, and Dallas started Trey Lance. So it's the first time Dak Prescott's going to take on Dan Quinn. It's kind of interesting in that respect. There's no Micah Parsons there, who's Dan Quinn's guy, whatever. So I really like the line, and the line is so low that if I really like the line, I'm almost tempted to take the Cowboys to win. It would be very Cowboys to lose to the crummy Panthers and then beat a legitimate team in the Commanders. This is the last time I'm going to extend some benefit of the doubt, and it has nothing to do with the ownership, obviously. But that was really weird because your visual was off of your audio. And so you had this big booming laugh while you were not doing anything. It's just so weird visual.
Sorry.
This is the Dak Prescott benefit of the doubt. That's what it is. I'm going to give Dak Prescott that 1.5 and bank everything on that.
I will say the Cowboys need this game more than the Commanders do. They absolutely do. If the Cowboys drop to 2-4-1 overall with 1-2 in the division and 1-4-1 in the conference, it's not season over in terms of the other teams ahead of them could stumble, but man, you're looking kind of cooked at that point. And then with a road game against the Broncos up next, so from that standpoint, I might regret not taking the Cowboys because I think they're going to be the more desperate team, and the Commanders are coming off a short week. That hurts them, but I just think I like Jaden Daniels more in this matchup than I like the Cowboys.
If the Commanders win, in my opinion, it will be a blowout. I don't think they win, by a field goal.
I disagree. I see a shootout happening here.
but this game reminds me. I'm trying to pull up the
over under is 54.5.
Well, I guess if it's a shootout, my point is this game reminds me. It has a feel. We've been comparing this Cowboys team, unfortunately, to 2012, 2013, Rob Ryan, 2020. And here it is, October 28th, 2012. The Cowboys hosted the Giants, and they fell down 23-0 in the game. Now, they ultimately lost 29-24. So they outscored the Giants 24-6 after falling down 23-0. But like, if it's a shootout, I think it's that kind of shootout. I think Washington just like punches them early, and there's some shock. You know what I mean? And then they maybe make it a more respectable game. But I don't see like just this back and forth that Washington winds up on top. I think it's either they jump out early and Dallas is just kind of stuck, or the Cowboys find a way to win.
All right, you want to get to our songs?
Yeah, I'll go first. I often pick songs inspired by my son. I've done that the last couple of times, and I'm gonna do that again. So Halloween's coming up. Have I told you what he's gonna be?
No.
He is going to be Super Mario, and I am going to be Yoshi, and my wife is going to be Princess Peach. And so he is very, very, very into Mario Kart at the moment. I think we might have to get a Switch 2 for Christmas. I mean, like it will be for him, you know what I mean? But so, but the other day on Saturday, I took him, we ran some errands, we went to Lowe's, stuff like that. And I was kind of stuck because he asked me to listen to some Mario music. And I didn't know that was like a thing. Like I didn't know, it was like, how do I find this? You know what I mean? And thankfully, there is an album within Apple Music, which is where we build the playlist, that has the soundtrack essentially to the Switch version of Mario Kart. So this is Rainbow Road from Mario Kart that is going on the playlist.
Wow. Famously, one of the most difficult, probably the most difficult, in terms of at least classic. I haven't kept up with every Mario Kart. Maybe there's more difficult ones. But in terms of the vintage, the legacy, the first Mario Kart, Rainbow Road was always tough because, no bumpers there on the side and it's falling off the map all the time. Nowadays, these kids are doing the speed runs where you kind of like can somehow like jump off and like land on another part of the track. Very interesting. Okay. I like that pick for you. Halloween is upon us. I don't have one necessarily Halloween specific, but it is, do you ever have certain bands or songs you listen to at different times of the year, like for different seasons or anything?
Totally. I mean, that makes perfect sense.
But aren't necessarily like season specific. Obviously you're listening like the Christmas music around Christmas.
Right.
Yeah, I'm talking about just like a band that you could ostensibly listen to at any point, but just for some reason you have a connection. For some reason, for me, I think about hanging out with my cousin when he showed me the band The Receiving End of Sirens, and the song is Planning a Prison Break. It's from the album Between the Heart and the Synapse, a really good album. I like that album from front to back. It has a progressive sound to it, so all the songs kind of flow into each other a bit there. Would highly recommend that band. Gone way too soon. They actually did a reunion show earlier this year or two up in Boston. Didn't work out. I really wanted to be able to go to those if I could, but just wasn't going to work out. So check out The Receiving End of Sirens, aka Treos, and check out the song Planning a Prison Break. Really good song.
It's Planning a Prison Break, right?
Yeah, Planning a Prison Break. It's the second song on. So you should really listen to the prologue into that song because it kind of plays into it, but we can only add one, so we're just going to add the main song.
I was originally looking for Planning the Prison Break.
No, Planning a Prison Break, not like the show. RJ, do you have a Costco membership? Have we talked about this before?
I do, yes.
All right, so I'm going to go there soon with my good friend and friend of the show here, Holden.
Loser.
Is there anything I should get? Do you have any Costco? I mean, we go a decent amount. So it's not like I'm a first timer, but I'm just wondering if there are any good Costco finds. I see all these videos on Instagram of like, oh, check this out at Costco. And unfortunately, they're just probably from different parts of the country. They don't always have it. I really wanted to get this pickle dip that they had that I haven't been able to find. But is there anything that stands out to you, whether it's food or otherwise?
Not an active sponsor, but a previous sponsor. They sell Righteous Felon.
Yes, I grab those every time. 100%.
Not the biltong, but the jerky sticks.
Yes, the jerky
those
sticks
are great. We get the hard-boiled eggs, just
Mm.
in bulk to have.
Wild.
That's kind of a staple. Speaking of my son, he likes this tilapia. It's like a lime-crusted tilapia fish, and
Sure.
you can only get it there. Highly recommend. I was on a big animal cracker kick for a while, like circa
I saw you like
2018.
tweet about this recently.
Not my tweet, but there was a time and I would buy the big tub.
I like the pink ones, like the covered ones.
Yeah, those are good. Like the yogurt covered ones.
In general, I don't love cookies though, like a dry cookie as much in general. Just a little too much of a dry guy for me. Like I wouldn't want a whole barrel of that. I could take like a pack of them.
I'm trying to think what else. There's got to be something else.
You ever do the gift card thing at Costco? I think that's an underrated a nice thing to have there. Like whether I'm not mention the companies because again, no free ads, but certain companies like you buy.
Yeah, you can get like $70 of gift card for like $50 or whatever. Yeah, like that's a good deal. That's good deal. Honestly, a staple for me is the 6-pack of muffins. Like that's like I never regret it. You know what I mean? Like it takes me like a week and a half if they last to eat the whole thing. But and I'll eat half at a time. The muffins are great. I buy a lot of meat there. Squeeze it. So they usually have some good like dog toys too. Now that we have, we've had Honey for 2 years, but like when you have multiple dogs, you can buy like one of those packs and you get some toys. There's always something you don't need there that you wind up with. That's the Costco way.
I bought a whole 50 pack of popcorn last time. Like, do I need this? Like, well, I haven't had popcorn forever, so it'd kind of be fun.
Actually, I'll
let you guys know what I get. I know you're
last thing. I'll text you a picture of this if you want. My wife ordered from there over the weekend, and I was busy with doing a bunch of stupid Cowboy stuff. But she bought, I think it was Kirkland's brand, but they were sour cream and onion kettle chips, and I've been eating them lately.
Okay,
they slap. I'll send you a picture because maybe they're not in your Costco. That's like you said, sometimes that's kind of the way it goes, but they're pretty freaking delicious. So I highly recommend.
I'll eat kettle chips. I'm kind of in a perfect world. I'm kind of picky about like just how crunchy. Sometimes they're so crunchy for this kind of like tear up your mouth, and it's not the most pleasant experience. But sometimes you get one that's like crunchy but still soft enough. I'll let you guys know what I'm going to get. Food court too. Anything?
I've never been like the get a slice of pizza. I think that's maybe like a Brandon thing. Like
I think their pizza's fine.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
Like the hot dog thing, whatever.
The hot dog's great. You got to get the hot dog. It's $1.50 for the dog and the drink.
I don't like hot dogs. I love brats, but I just don't.
It's a high quality hot dog. Or at least
I can tolerate if I'm at a baseball game.
The bread is.
But
it's really good. You gotta get
a random Tuesday. Nah, not for me. So.
I feel like they always miss the sandwiches. They try to do like a sandwich. I had the combo calzone. I actually like that, but that's like that's a big commitment. It's very calorically dense.
Okay. Are you ready to go?
And the cookie. Obviously, the cookie is really good. Gotta get.
As we leave, please spell Costco.
COSTCO.